was going to say, this is why
That's
meditation.
a thought going in and out.
Yeah, this is why
And that cloud went quick. We're live.
We are live in the
live.
studio.
I still wanted to just point out, this is the first time that we are actually in a studio, and I think all of us are not. I think we're actually really exciting because it's like, look how pro this setup
very
is, and I
professional.
just want to like point out that this is awesome.
Yeah.
And this is in Bali.
that we're here, and yeah, exactly. We're in Bali, and we're scooting past this studio, and we're like, we should probably record something for our students and give value, and look how pro it is. So
it's very exciting. And we just bam, straight into it. Like, let's just do it. We're like, let's do a recording, and now we're here.
No messing about. Bronze organised it, had to kind of grab us a little bit and say, hey, fellas, come on, we got a podcast to shoot. There was a little bit of resistance, but here we are. Anything to benefit our students. So
exactly right.
Mindset, right?
Exactly. What we are talking about is that, or maybe I'll give some like context of where you guys are at when you are actually listening to, this podcast or this recording, if you like. Where are you at? At this moment in time, you've taken the plunge that Amazon FBA, creating an Amazon business, is something that you're wanting to do, and most probably because you are wanting to create a life of freedom, whether it's time freedom, financial freedom, all that good stuff. And you have started the academy and you're in the millionaire mindset. And basically what we want to talk about today, Eric, I know that you wanted to introduce what we're going to talk about today, is basically...
Yeah, so we're in the Millionaire Mindset module, and we wanted to talk about mindset because the reality is, guys, that business is difficult. Starting an Amazon business is difficult. Like, if it was easy, everyone would be doing it. Like, everyone 100%. Says that. Like, if it was easy, everyone would be doing it. Yeah. And the statistics actually show that only 1% of people actually make it as an Amazon seller. So to be in that 1%, you have to be a little bit different to other people. And we thought about this as a team, right? We discussed it, and we came to a conclusion of a topic that we thought would most benefit you now in the program. And that is like, who do you have to be to really be in that 1% to succeed? And we boiled it down to an individual that has a solid mindset. Mm-hmm. So we started thinking, when we were starting out, what were we doing to aid our mindset? What resources were we consuming? What knowledge were we gathering? Because the reality is, guys, you only get to a level that you allow yourself to get to based on the knowledge that you actually have.
That's right. I actually do want to go back a little bit on what you said, Eric, about that only 1% of individuals actually launch on Amazon as a whole. So not just our academy, just as a whole. And I wanted to, if you're hearing that, you're like, oh my God, what have I gotten myself into? Is it that really difficult?
Our student success rate is way higher.
It's way higher.
I think it's it's way higher.
I'd say
than
we'd be
that.
up to the 10%, right?
I was going to say 10-15%.
10%. So we're way
Which is
above
like-
the average.
Which is amazing. And when we talk to these students, they're like, oh, I'm live, but this, that. And I'm like, no, you do not understand what a small group of people you have actually joined. And what I wanted actually to say, the reason is that it's such a small number, not because Amazon is particularly hard. It's not hard.
No.
There's obviously challenges. Everything has challenges, especially when you're new. But the reason people actually don't push is what's in between their ears. It's their mindset. It's literally the number one thing stopping people.
That voice creeps in for most people. You can't do it. It's hard. Or maybe you've got your mum or your dad or Greg from down the road or a mate from school saying, no, come out and do this instead. No, you should be doing this. And a lot of people cave into that.
Yeah.
And like anything, mindset's no different. You need to have the foundation. You need to have those building blocks to be able to grow and actually upskill as you're doing and learning Amazon.
Upskill.
That's
exactly right.
Upskill
and that's exactly what you're doing in this program right now. You've purchased this program and you're upskilling. So congratulations to you for being here and actually taking the time out and paying for a resource that is going to change your life if you follow the steps properly.
That's right.
So
100%.
On that upskilling level, I'd love to dive into individually what we've actually done to upskill, because it's important that whilst you're doing this Amazon program, that you are also leveling up your mindset at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
It works hand in hand.
And we thought about, right, like what were the books specifically that we were thinking about when we were starting?
Yeah.
And we would like to share them as we think that it's an excellent practice to be reading these books, choose whichever ones you think will benefit you most, to be actually diving into and consuming alongside the program, because that will substantially increase your probability of success.
That's
Definitely.
right. I just did want to add one more thing, is that firstly, when we were discussing about what we wanted to discuss, or what resources, what tips we wanted to share with you all, one thing I was like, what does mindset actually mean? Because right now, mindset, or what's your mindset, work on your mindset, it is thrown around absolutely everywhere. And if someone goes, what does mindset actually mean? So I actually Googled it, because I was like, when people say mindset, what do they actually mean? And Google said that mindset, it is your attitude to a particular topic. So when we're talking about mindset, and particularly mindset of your business mindset, do you have a growth mindset? What is your attitude when things start to get hard, when things start to get difficult, when there's people that are not in your corner or that are not clapping you to go on? What is your mindset to that? Okay, what is your attitude towards basically difficulty and being uncomfortable? So now that we're talking about resources, and in a moment we're going to give you or share with you some of our favorite books that we read at the beginning of our entrepreneurial journey, what books helped change our attitude of how we view life, how we view business, and how we view challenges, obstacles, when shit hits the fan, what's our response?
Yeah, agreed.
Chris.
And I was going to say, there's one book that I know you want to talk about that we've all really learnt and like read very early on. That's Rich Dad Poor Dad. We all read that very early on in our time, and I think that's one we should start with, because that is the start of probably a lot of people's entrepreneurial journey.
Yeah, I remember that was the first business book that I ever read. And it was literally when I was starting my first Amazon business.
Yeah.
Before that, I think I did a year of like personal development, where I was reading more like spiritual books and kind of like fluffy duffy type of books. And that was great. But the real like business book that I read, the first one that really like was like, wow, like this stuff is like legit and this stuff's exciting, and it really like reinvigorated me, and I started learning, and I was like, this is exciting, cool stuff. It was Rich Dad Poor Dad, and the main takeaway I had from that book was the difference between assets and liabilities, which is just like business 101, like first things first. What's an asset and what's a liability? Like an asset is something that produces money, it's something that's positive in money. A liability is something that costs money and takes away money and decreases in money. Like that was the first concept that I was like, holy shit, okay, that means I need to have more assets and less liabilities, then I'll become rich.
Yeah.
Another great point in that book as well, and is like working smarter, not harder. Like the two differences in dads. You've got one dad here who's making all this money from doing smart investments, and then you got this other dad here who just works really hard, and he's worked his way up the ladder, but he's not really doing anything with the money he's making. He's just kind of getting by. That was a real big significance, I think, with that book as well. And I think that was a really interesting point.
Yeah. Why I believe that Rich Dad Poor Dad is such a powerful book, especially at the beginning of entrepreneurship, business in general, is because obviously I personally love learning by stories, and it paints such a clear picture of what society, so Poor Dad, what society deems is successful. And for me, I was a teacher's pet, A+ student. I went to physiotherapy, went to university, did physiotherapy. That was always what I thought. Like, I have to go to university to be successful, to make money. Like, if I didn't do that, then what the hell was I doing with my life? So when I read that book, what Poor Dad was saying, my whole life was based on those principles and those lessons. So when he goes into what Rich Dad is teaching him, it was a real eye opener for me, because I'm like, oh my God, I see it so clearly now. However, the last 18, 20 years, I was 22 when I graduated university. That's what society was telling me to do. What Poor Dad was teaching.
And I just want to interject there and point out how fascinating it is that the Poor Dad isn't poor.
No.
The Poor Dad works a government job.
Yeah,
he actually makes money. He has a solid salary. He has he's doing okay what it deems to be
Well, he
okay in
was
society. He was
Still
a
successful
normal,
in a normal day, every 9 to 5 job.
But I
Yeah.
guess like for the context of the book, that is what the poor dad is outlined as, because he's time poor.
Yeah,
he doesn't have his time. He has to
Yes.
work every single 80-hour weeks. He's stuck to his job. He's reliant on that income. If the government cuts his job, then he's lost it overnight.
Yeah, and it was a highly educated individual. I believe his dad had a PhD, and they were actually talking about how he was so specialized that, even if he did want to go to different jobs, he was specialized in this area where only, X, Y, and Z were hiring.
But it was also like,
So
exactly.
he actually created a prison in that as well.
It was
But
also
I think
that
we've segued.
society and like how the circles it was either because they all had good jobs, they were all getting bigger houses, bigger mortgages, and it was all kind of like that's what was making him less financially rich, because he was only upgrading with the salary. As his salary grew, you buy more things, and that's what happens in life. People do that. You get a better salary, you get a new car.
Yeah.
Get a big salary, you get a bigger house, but you're always in debt, and then you never get ahead. That was one thing that book really touched on.
And in the meanwhile, the rich dad, they actually lived in an average house and had average things, and they were like living like pretty
debt.
steady. But he kept reinvesting his money into more businesses. Yeah. And I believe that the rich dad actually ended up being the richest man in Hawaii when he sold his businesses and became a billionaire.
Yeah.
So it's awesome book. If you haven't read that one, that's book number one.
Great.
That's number
And
one.
I guess from that one, I want to lead on with the next one because it's another story. Rich Dad Poor Dad tells the story all the way through, doesn't it? And I think the next one is Shoe Dog with Phil Knight, all about Nike. Another really good book to read. It's a story from the start to finish of Phil Knight and his life creating Nike. And I think as an Amazon seller, you guys are creating your first brands, and Phil Knight created this brand out of his passion running. And like, I see this now. I've read the book a few times, and recently I reread it and I was like, wow, I've learned more now from when I first read it because of all the Amazon work I've done in the last few years. And it's just like, I've got goosebumps just thinking about it, like literal goosebumps, because it's such a interesting book of how he just took action on a passion and then continued to take action, not even knowing what the next steps were and just learning as he went.
Yeah.
The stories, love all the stories. Something that I really appreciate in that story is that obviously in the world of social media, we only see a highlight reel. We see that, everyone's an overnight success. Oh, that person is successful because they didn't do any work and it was just luck, which is not true, but that's how society views them. And I absolutely love that how Shoe Dog, Phil Knight, just breaks down that he was scraping the barrel. Him and his wife, everyone that was involved, the founding fathers, he calls them, of Nike, they were all struggling for majority of the time, and it wasn't until Nike
went fully public and actually
went public, and therefore people were able to buy their shares. He became millionaire. Before that, billionaire. Yeah. Before that, he talks about all the struggles, all the difficulties, hassling with the banks, like trying to get money to get inventory. And I think it just paints a picture that yes, Nike is a $1 billion company. It is everywhere, in every corner of the world. You will find Nike. But I don't think people stop and realize, how did it actually start? It started with one dude who
was selling
liked
shoes
running.
out the back of his car. He just had a passion for running and then had a vision and continued to build on it and invested in himself.
Kind of actually just reminds me of Simon Beard, the guy that started Culture Kings. He started just selling shoes as well, just at a pop-up market in Gold Coast. How they have the pop-up markets in Surfers? That's where he started Culture Kings, that he then sold for hundreds of millions of dollars years later. You just have to start just doing stuff. Yeah,
it's my favorite bit. It highlights that. It just highlights the struggles and the fact that he just kept on going. And that's why Nike is what it is right now.
And maybe that's a good segue into the book Winning that I know you want to talk about, Chris. That's one of your favorite books. And it's a book that I really like as well because it basically outlines the mindset of Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant and I think it was Richard Glover.
Tim Glover.
Tim Glover.
He's the coach. He was the coach of both of them. He was there. He was their 1% coach.
He was the coach of Michael Jordan, and then Michael Jordan was so successful to the point that then Kobe Bryant was like, "I will do anything for you to be my coach as well." And then coached Kobe.
What's very interesting about that book is Tim Glover he never had a high-end athlete before Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan was his first ever high-end athlete. He actually put out flyers to all the Chicago Bulls players, and not a single person came back with his flyer except for Michael Jordan, who took him on as a personal coach. And literally, the book
is so bizarre.
It's crazy. So it's a story of both him and Michael Jordan, his growth as with Michael Jordan's growth, because no one backed him. No one backed this guy, this new coach and these new ideas to back for Michael Jordan to become who he was. And he basically helped Michael Jordan and then Kobe become that like 1%, 2% better constantly throughout their careers. But I think the main point about that book, and it comes off the back of Shoe Dog about taking action, but once you take action, you have to be like, you have to put the work in. You have to be tenacious. The grit that Michael Jordan, the grit that like Kobe Bryant put in to get to become so good at what they do was because they kept putting the work in it and kept learning, like we said, kept growing, kept investing in themselves.
Obsession.
And just obsession.
That's the word. It was obsession.
They wanted to be the best.
My takeaway from that book was the obsession that they had. Like Michael Jordan would just be obsessed with winning. He would do anything to win. That's why these guys train so hard.
And they studied themselves. They studied every game. Like the comparison, I guess, between Michael Jordan and Kobe, very different people. But they both used to constantly study footage and ask their coach, which is Tim Grover, how they could like improve that 1% just so they could dominate the league.
And can I ask you both a question, because now we're going into sports chat, and I just want to redirect of how I've read the book Winning and I love it as well, but what are the both of you, or Chris first, what's your main takeaway from Winning, and how can our students bring that knowledge into their Amazon business and their Amazon journey?
I guess like the whole to get ahead of everyone else, you do have to do a bit more than everyone else. You have to put in a bit more muscle. You have to put a bit more grunt in. You have to do the hours. We're talking about Amazon. If you find an opportunity, you need to go for it and put the hours in so you can get out there before anyone else does, and then be the best you can be. You can't half-assed things. You got to get it out there and then just keep progressing and get better and have that like urge to grow your Amazon brand, to grow your mindset, to grow everything. You got to keep pushing.
Yeah, and something that just popped up for me that I think is important as well is that whilst you're pushing and you're doing it and you're going all at it, because you're probably very excited at this point in time. You've just bought this new program. You just want to fly through it and you just want to get everything done now. It's also important to not just smash everything in a week, burn out, and then stop, which a lot of people do.
Yeah.
So it's like having that work rate that Chris is talking about and smashing it and doing it, but doing it consistently
at the right
over
times.
time.
Yeah, at the right times as well.
Not just this like hot flame, cold flame.
Yeah.
It's a warm flame, but forever.
Yeah. And you will find times during the academy where there is periods where you have to work a little bit more, and then there's a bit of period where there's a little bit of a slower time where you're waiting for samples or waiting for inventory to come. So you'll get a bit of a roller coaster of when you need to really push some work out and when you can just take it a little bit easier and look at some other things.
Yeah, and generally speaking, an Amazon FBA business is very much front heavy in terms of that. What you guys are doing now is I guess theoretically the most hands-on you will be is the product launch. So it's doing your product research, it's getting those samples, it's organizing the listing, because you're doing everything at once, right? And then as Chris said, then you've got periods of waiting when you're waiting for the samples, when you're waiting for shipping. But then once you're live and you've got everything organized, basically for a period of time, like when you launch, you're waiting, you're setting up your PPC, and if you're following Chris's videos, you can't touch anything for a week. So then you're technically twiddling your thumbs for 7 days waiting for data to come in. So it is a roller coaster in terms of there'll be times where that flame has to be red hot and you'll be go, but then you also know that there'll be times where you'll be able to relax because you need to wait. Yeah. And there's nothing you can really do but be patient in that
100%.
For that step as well.
So we've gone over Rich Dad Poor Dad. Then we went into a bit of sports. We had Nike, Shoe Dog, and then we had Winning by Tim Grover. We haven't heard one from you yet, Vrons.
So I wanted to maybe take the conversation in terms of actually it goes on from Winning. So I want to ask you a question for the both of you, but also everyone who's listening is like, what's the main reason why you stop? And when I say stop, I mean quit. And I this is something that along my entrepreneurial journey is, my answer to that question is a lot of is belief. So in myself. So, and a book that I really resonated with, and it highlighted a lot of, self-sabotaging
traits
or just habits, really. And that book is The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks. And he talks about this concept that he's created, which is called upper limiting.
Yeah.
Which is basically when you get to a point, whether it's in business, in your like in your career, in your family life, in your fitness or body goals, where you hit a place where you are achieving your goals. So it might be the happiest you've ever felt, the most money you've ever made, and you hit your ceiling, and then suddenly your body does not know what to do with that level of success, and it self-sabotages and brings you down to a level that you're comfortable with. Because each level that you get to, okay, so you're here because we're all climbing, aren't we? If we're not growing, we're dying, and we're all climbing, we're all growing, and each level is a new level. And even though it's a level that you're working towards, you're striving towards, you want to be there, you want to, have that money, have that house, have that car, have that time with your family, be on that holiday. But sometimes, because it is the unknown, it's still uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And it talks about, firstly, identifying self-sabotage. And then what can you do to identify that and then actually move past that and actually go forth and basically achieve your full potential?
They talk about like embracing, because knowing that means you're getting to that next, like if you start feeling this way and you're like upper limiting, it means you're achieving what you were doing. You're actually getting to that destination you're getting to, but now you've got a new destination to go to.
Yeah.
And
And it basically talks about also that it's actually taking responsibility for your own happiness and for your own success. Because I think that most of the time we look at success and the happiness of external factors. Oh, but that's not going right for me. Oh, but this, but that. And it boils down to it's no one else's responsibility for your own, but your own. And if you are upper limiting, acknowledging that, taking responsibility of that, and then seeing what you can do to move forward. So I do think that one, if you're someone that maybe wrestles with self-belief or not sure why you keep on like hitting a glass ceiling, you get to this point in success, but then you can't go beyond that. Why that is, I think that is a fantastic book to read.
Do you think like goal setting and that sort of stuff would help you know when you're upper limiting? Like, so when you're like, oh, I've actually achieved this. I've actually done really well here. This is why I feel bad right now, because I'm just upper limiting myself. But if you know you've achieved those goals, would that help?
No, I think that goal setting, I think that anyone can set goals, but I don't.
Here's an example. If there's a crack addict, and I say that because it's attention grabbing. If there's a crack addict
in the room right now.
If there's a crack addict or someone addicted to drugs, right, and they start changing their ways, they're like, I want to be better, I want to have success, I want to do something incredible in my life, right? They go out and they do all of these incredible things. Maybe they start changing, they give up the drugs, and then, now they have a girlfriend, but maybe then like from there, like they get a good job and they start making money, then they make an investment and they get a house, and then they have all of this success, right? So they're a crackhead and now they're successful. At that success, they may sit there and be like, what's going on here? I was a crack addict, now I'm here. This is uncomfortable. This is killing me. And a part of the brain is like, who is this person? Because the identity may still be the crackhead.
Yeah, they haven't changed that identity.
And this happened all the time for someone like Ben Cousins, for example, right? He was an AFL player, the best player. He had a drug addiction. And he was the best player in the league, but then he kept falling down into being this drug addict. Yeah. And in the end, that's where he kind of ended up, and now I think is in rehab. Now the upper limit may be that success. It's so foreign. It's so foreign because your identity is so caught up in who you used to be that then that person may fall back to being exactly where they were once upon a time. And it happens all the time. There are countless stories like that, just like Ben Cousins. Yeah. And it's kind of that concept, right?
It is. And in the book, there's like multiple examples of famous people that they were, and even dealing with drug addiction, and then they were able to pass their upper limit to go forward.
It's like almost a thing of not thinking you're worthy enough to be able to achieve some of those.
And we all know what that all comes back to, right?
Yeah.
Childhood
and
relationship with parents. I haven't read this book personally, but it
sounds
great.
Into that 100%. Yeah.
It does go into all childhood and relationship with mum and dad and psychology stuff. Yeah.
That kind of, I guess, leads into another book, I guess, that you want to speak about.
Which one?
It's like psychology. I was thinking psychocybernetics.
Yeah, Psychocybernetics is a great book. That's it's actually a book I've read recently, but I think it's a book that anyone who's starting out in business should read. And the reason being is because Psycho-Cybernetics is all about identity. And it's really similar to what you just talked about there, in that like you will only become successful to the level that you actually view yourself being successful at. Because if you're outside of your own identity, then again, it's uncomfortable and you'll self-sabotage and push yourself back down to where you think you belong or to what's comfortable.
Yeah.
And everything is really just a battle of like where you want to be in comfort, right? And then continually like breaking like ceilings and pushing on. But anyway, I love the book Psycho-Cybernetics because what it teaches you to do is reframe your own identity in your own mind by visualizing who you actually want to be.
Yeah.
It's like creating like a new image of yourself in your own mind, and then attaching yourself to that new image. So you're kind of like forcefully kind of like brainwashing yourself into being the person that you want to be in your mind first. And it teaches visualization practices that basically you lay down or you sit down. I do this every morning. I personally sit down and I'll get my hydrogen water pumping for 10 minutes, and I'll just sit and I'll just visualize specific outcomes. And that's what it is. It's an outcome. It's something of like the end result of something going well, or the end result of the thing that you want.
Yeah.
And what it's basically priming you to do is to get your body into an emotional state of feeling that thing, because it creates then a really deep connection to it.
I'm glad you said feeling, because I was going to say visualizing, but it's like you're attaching emotions to what you're going to achieve as well. You're like, I'm going to feel this when I get to this point in time. Like, I'm going to feel so happy and excited when I achieve this.
And it makes that feeling then, because you're creating it in yourself, it makes it normal for you. It makes it normal. And this is difficult to understand. Like, how can you make yourself feel something that you don't have? But it's a practice, right? And the book basically outlines how to use this practice. And there's a fascinating study in the book where they used basketball players. So there are 3 control groups. Control group 1 was a group of shooters that shot basketball hoops every single day. Control group 2 was people that did no shooting of basketball hoops. And control group 3 were individuals that only visualized shooting basketball hoops every single day. They did this for 20 days straight, these 3 groups, right? Control group 1 that actually shot every single day, they improved their basketball shooting by 24%. As you'd expect, okay, you're practicing it every day. You're actually shooting hoops, of course you're going to get better. Control group 2, that did nothing, they didn't get better at all. But control group 3, that only visualized shooting hoops and didn't actually shoot hoops, they improved their shooting by 23%. Which is the same as the group that actually shot hoops. Yeah. Which is just proves like literally that like your mind has so much power in anything that you do, like, and you can use your mind to improve yourself. Yeah. It's as simple as that.
And I think it takes practice, just to jump in there as well, because I really enjoyed this book, and I do the visualization, maybe not as much as you do. You do it routinely in the morning. I've been trying to do it more often. And it isn't as easy as it sounds just to sit there and visualize and actually like free your mind of thinking about other things and only focus on what you want to visualize and the feelings that we were talking about. It's actually a lot harder than it sounds. And I think even the book is actually itself, it's a bit of one of those ones you want to take slowly, because it can get a bit technical, but it's a great book when it comes to that. And it does teach you exactly what Eric was talking about. And I'm going to keep trying to get better at that. And I think any student should be really looking at the visualization and maybe throwing it into their morning routine.
Yeah, it's really acknowledging the power of the mind. And one of my books, The Strangest Secret by Earl Nightingale, he talks about the strangest secret, and it is exactly, what Eric and Chris were talking about in terms of the power of the mind. Like, what the greatest tool that we have is our mind. And in there it talks about everything that you buy, whether it's a house, creating a business, getting a car, you can lose all of these things, but then a man can, or a woman can, rebuild themselves. But the things we get for free, so our mind, our ambitions, our goals, like our family, those are the things that come to us for free, isn't it? And those are the things that are actually worth more. And where I actually wanted to take that is, again, back to the mind. It's like the greatest secret. And Eric and I, when we first listened to this, we were in the car, we're like, yes, tell us what it is. And I'm going to spoil it for you.
What's the secret? We want to know.
What is the secret?
Better be good.
And he pauses on the audiobook and he's like, you are what you think about. And it's...
Which is a profound concept.
If you just think about it, you are what you think about. And you're like, oh, that's lame. That's too simple. But if you just boil it down, like everything, our life sitting right here are the result of what we thought yesterday, a week ago, a year ago. The thoughts that we were having has created our life here, and the same for your life that everyone who's watching this right now.
Yeah, definitely.
And it's very confronting as well because you actually need to take responsibility for your life. And if you're in a place where you think you don't want to be in the greatest secret, he says, well, actually, that's a lie because you've created this. So it's taking that responsibility and being like, shit, I'm in a shit situation, but it's my fault.
Yeah.
And that's very confronting. We don't like that because we don't like thinking it's our fault, especially when it's not what we want. But as soon as you take the responsibility, if you created a shit situation, you can create a good situation.
And thinking about where do you want to be in the future, and are you taking the right actions right now to get to that point?
Yeah.
And if you're not, that's probably why you're not in that situation right now, because you don't have the right people around you, you're not taking the right actions, you're not learning the right things, you're not implementing anything. And that's why you're not going to get to that destination you want to.
And it really starts with just drawing attention to your current thoughts. And realizing also that you are not your thoughts. A lot of thoughts, it's like, there's a book apparent now. It wasn't going to be a book that we talked about, but I guess it is an important book because it's just relevant, where it's Eckhart Tolle, and he talks about the power of the present moment and talks about observing your thoughts and understanding that you are not actually your thoughts. A lot of your thoughts that are just on repeat are bouncing around have been planted in there from your parents, your neighbors, your friends, your school teachers, people you grew up with, people around you, and you realize they're just sitting in your head and they're dictating where your life's going. But the moment you actually take a deep breath and you actually become conscious and you start analyzing your own thoughts, you're like, holy crap, I can dictate my own thoughts. I can choose my thoughts. I can change my thoughts. But it becomes with first being aware of your thoughts.
Yeah.
I'm reading a similar book right now as well. I think it's, I've forgotten the name of it, but it's the exact same concept. Your thoughts just come and go. And if you're reacting on every thought that comes into your head, you're just going to be a crazy person sometimes.
They say clouds, your mind should be like the sky, and thoughts are just clouds.
Yeah.
They come, they pass through, and they go.
One of the tricks was sit there and write down every thought that comes out into your head for a 5-10 minute period. And then don't look at that again for a couple of weeks, and then open it up and just see how crazy or see how profane some of the thoughts that were coming through your head at that time when you're no longer connected to that environment or that scenario or what you were thinking about at the time. And you'll be like, oh, these are just wild thoughts that don't mean anything. And
I have a question for you guys. And now I've forgotten it.
I was going to say, this is why
That's
meditation...
a thought going in and out.
This is why
and that cloud went quick.
All right.
Oh, okay, I remember
Okay,
it. I remember
okay,
it. I remember it. Do you guys use affirmations? Because now it's just how do you plant new thoughts into your head? Well, you can affirm new thoughts. You can say, I am this, I am this. Do you guys use that affirmations? And what are your thoughts on affirmations, positive affirmations?
I don't personally use them that often. However, I know how powerful they can be. And it's something that I guess I've been a little bit casual on because I have done in the past, but then I've stopped. But I do know how powerful they can be. And this is probably a nice little reminder that I should start using them again. And even saying them to yourself in the mirror, so you're looking yourself in the eyes when you're saying them, so you can see the person you're talking to, because that's going to help you visualize that person as well.
I have definitely used affirmations. I go on and off affirmations in terms of, it's more so maybe discipline or the lack of discipline, but I've definitely used affirmations that have them stuck on my mirror or going in my diary that I write them each day. There is, in recent times, and when I say recent times, recent days, there is a affirmation soundtrack that I listen to on Spotify, and it's a 3-minute song, and I recently found it in one of my old playlists. And I remember I used to listen to this this was before I even knew you, Chris. So 6 years ago, and this was a period of time where I was, mid-20s, you're figuring life out, but it was probably one of the lowest times in my life in terms of mental well-being, if you like. However, this affirmations I listen to every single morning going to the gym before work. And I think that now that it came up on my playlist like a few days ago, I was reflecting upon it, and I do think that despite having low thoughts or negative thoughts, and I was like partying a lot and all of that during that time, I feel like that was, I do think that 3-minute soundtrack every morning actually, as I said earlier, the thoughts we had last year, the year before, they create our life, today and years to come. And I think that even though it was a little bit, I think that actually had a profound impact on the things I did later on, and how I viewed myself.
Yeah. What about yourself, Eric?
I have 2 affirmations that I've been telling myself for a long time repeatedly, and I still tell myself every single day. Affirmation 1, I am a multi-millionaire. Affirmation 2, I am the best man that I can be. I tell myself those 2 things every single day.
That's great.
That's really powerful.
They're really powerful. I just realized I actually have those 4, not those, but I have 4 lines on my laptop every time I open my laptop screen.
You do, yeah.
And it's like basically the breakdown is I'm a winner. I will destroy my competition. And
Dealing with Amazon seller support.
I will basically
I remember when you started putting those affirmations.
I will win anytime, any place, anywhere. I was saying them every day, but now I realize they're on my laptop and I look at them, but I don't always say them out loud. So I'm going to start saying them out loud again because they're like strong ones, basically.
I don't say those ones out loud. I say them in my mind, but it is more powerful
to myself.
If you say them out loud.
Because sometimes you see something, we've read it so many times, you don't think about it. So more so, I'm going to see that on my laptop again and think about it because that's really important. But yeah, they're great. They're very powerful.
Yeah.
Awesome.
All right, I think we've got a few more books left, and we've kind of gone over our allocated time.
I think we've smashed out of some really good quality books.
But I think I want to do one more, I guess, sub niche, and that is I think money mindset and money blueprint. Because after all, we do Amazon because we're here to make money, aren't we? Okay, that's what it is. So we do have
the cashola, right?
We want hard, cold cash in the
a briefcase on the table.
Let's call it, Yeah, so that's what we want. So I've got, Eric, I'll let you start with yours because I feel like it's a good introduction to
There is a fantastic book called The Secrets of the Millionaire Mind by T. Harv Eker. And it's a book where it talks about the secrets of the millionaire mind, right? It talks about the secrets that T. Harv Eker has used to become a multi-millionaire real estate tycoon. Awesome, great, like all this cool stuff. But there was one part of that book when I was reading it that just slapped me in the face, like, whoa, okay, that makes sense. And that was this entire chapter dedicated to something called money blueprint. And the money blueprint basically is the subconscious and or conscious beliefs that we hold as individuals about money. So it's like, what do you actually think about money? A typical one is, right, like a lot of people will be like, money is the root of all evil. Like, how often have you heard people say that? It's like, cool, you think money is the root of all evil, then you ain't going to have money because you think that money is evil and you're not going, and it comes back to identity. You're not going to create an identity for yourself of something that you think is negative.
That's right,
And there's an example of like someone was in a G-Wagon and someone said like, oh, he must be compensating for his small dick or something like that. We've all heard like comments like that, people putting down other like people with nice things, right? And it just goes to show what that person's money blueprint is. It's like, if you want to be rich and you're talking shit about rich people and people that have money and things that represent wealth, then unfortunately you're not going to become rich because you will not become what you hate. Right? And that's the whole concept of the book. And it even goes a few levels deeper than that, like down to your parents and how your parents speak about money, how your family speaks about money. Oh, it doesn't grow on trees. Yeah, you can't have that. Who do you think we are?
That's going to be like hundreds of thousands of hours to ever achieve that. Like,
you think it comes for free?
Yeah.
You know, we've all heard this stuff. Yeah. We grew up with a single mum that grew up in communist Poland. Like the amount of times that we had scarcity talk in our family, and the reality is that you don't even know that you have these beliefs until you sit down and actually like start analyzing the way that you view money and the way that you use money and the way that you view money. Like, do you feel anxious and tight in your chest when you pay for something? Even though you know you have the money in your bank account.
Yeah. But it's not even like thinking about like analyzing your own thoughts, because if you're analyzing your thoughts, be like, yeah, that's normal. Doesn't everyone feel anxious when they have to pay for something? It's not until like you read such a book and you're like, what? Everything that I've thought about money has been actually so fucked up, and it's the reason I don't have money.
Yeah.
Like those are everything comes together. It comes to, okay, your childhood trauma, your upbringing, what you're thinking about. Again, you are what you think about, and it's your money blueprint. If your frequency about money is down here, but you want to achieve down here, even if you do up here, even if you do get up here, you'll fall. And that's actually a perfect example. I'm sure many have heard about it. Is like when people win the lottery. Who are the people that purchase lottery tickets? Normally, like lower socioeconomic people who like to obviously gamble or like that, you know, that
they want an easy way out.
They want to, or that's in their mind, you know. I've had family members say, oh, I would get that if I won the lottery, because it's a joke, it'll never happen. But what my point is, they win the lottery. So say they win millions of dollars. Research has done that usually it takes 7 years for a person who wins the lottery to lose all their money, and they actually end up worse than they were before.
I just want to touch on something here, because now I think that crosses over the line into financial literacy.
I was going to say the same thing.
It's not financial blueprint. I think that's literacy, because they don't, and that goes back to Rich Dad Poor Dad. They put all of their money into liabilities and not assets. They're buying cars, jet skis, bad houses, and everything's going down in value. So it's more so like the money blueprint comes down to like actually feeling worthy of having money because of what you learned as a child. And once you kind of go through that and you analyze it and you read the book, you start to realize and you start to reframe in your head, hey, money's beautiful. Money's such an incredible resource.
It's just energy that goes around.
How much cool stuff can we do with money? How many people can we help with money? Like, what a beautiful life I can create for my family because of money. What a change I can make in the world because I have money. Like, and you start reframing all of the negative stuff with all the positive stuff, and you realize money, like you said, it's an energy, it's a resource, it's an exchange value, value exchange.
Yeah, and it's beyond me when people say like, well, they think they're kind of like on a high horse, be like, oh, I don't need money because I'm a good person. It's like, if you're a good person, imagine if you had money, what you could do and actually impact, and whether it's your family, friends, and the world as a whole. Like, if you've got money, that's where you can actually make some change. So we're here to fucking make money. So we can, you know, help as many people as we can. We want to, you know, offer a beautiful life to our future families and our current families.
100%.
Great.
Absolutely. Money's beautiful. I think that's a really positive note to probably wrap up this.
Yeah, I think
there were like other books we wanted to talk about, but some books that we didn't even discuss kind of crept in. So I think that's a really good list and a really good way to end this episode.
Yeah. And wherever this is posted, I will have a whole list of the books we have discussed, plus some others that we you know, that we deem our favorites. And, you know, it's great to have a list of books to refer back to and be like,
listen to them any way you want.
I was going to say, all right, we're going to end it now, but you know, you're not just going to finish here and go to the next video. No. What you're going to do is this. You're going to pick 2 books that we've just discussed. You're going to go straight into amazon.com.au. You're going to order those books. Yes, you're going to order the physical books. You're going to have them in 2 days, and you're going to read those books, okay? You didn't watch this for no reason. You're reading those books, and you're doing it alongside doing this program, and you're going to exponentially increase the likelihood that you're going to be successful because you took that action. So well done to you.
Exactly right. And if you read the books physically and also listen to them on Audible, you'd retain more information as well. So highly encourage.
Bang, bang, bang.
Get in that car. If you're driving for a long distance, put an Audible on. I tell you what, the most I listen to books when listening to them is when I'm driving, because I just have them in the background. When I'm trying to focus on other tasks, I can't do it. So
well, that's how you share the story.
Plumber Chris.
That's another story for another day. We'll wrap it up today.
All right, guys. Well, peace.
That's it. See you later.